I am writing this statement as a witness and sister on my own version and recollection of events without discussion or influence with any family members. They are completely unaware of this statement as I am writing this. I believe my brother, I will refer to as Brother One, has suffered emotional manipulation and potential abuse as a minor at the hands of an adult in our extended family. The adult in question is an uncle, a brother of a father. For some background and context, my brother was a rebellious kid and struggled massively in school. This caused my dad an intense worry seeing his son failing and resulted in him being stricter and more disciplined to him than me and my other brother, which Brother One did not understand. Brother One picked up an interest in painting at an early age, possibly at the influence of my uncle who was already an established artist. Brother One's interest in painting sparked my uncle to invite him to his house far across the country to teach him painting. I believe this first may have occurred in Brother One's early teenage years, possibly as early as 12, but I am unsure. My uncle would spend money on Brother One and take him to several restaurants which would have been a big deal for a young teenager. Those trips occurred several times and my uncle would pay for the flights. My uncle was in a homosexual relationship with another man living in his home, and at the time I believe Brother One would have been staying with both my uncle and his relationship. Brother One developed a very close and father-like relationship with my uncle. I believe Dad did not really understand why his son seemed to be close with my uncle, and I remember going on a trip on holiday overseas with my dad and Brother Two when I was 10 or 11, but Brother One was not invited. I was reminded of this by an ex-girlfriend of Brother One over 10 years later, and I felt guilt and confusion. Mum and Dad separated when I was maybe 4 or 5. Then me, Brother One and Two moved into our new home with Mum. Their relationship was very strained due to financial conflict, and this left Mum with a sometimes resentful attitude for Dad and vice versa. However, they determined to do what was right for us kids and gave us the best upbringing they could. I believe Brother One's struggle with a rebellious attitude and poor grades in school left Mum and Dad worrying for Brother One's future. When Brother One showed an interest in painting, Mum was incredibly supportive financially and emotionally. Dad was in awe of Brother One's natural talent as well and encouraged him and got passionately invested. When Brother One was about 16, he was arrested for a drunk driving accident which resulted in a serious crash and complete destruction to his car, and it is a miracle he survived. Nights later, he awoke from a nightmare and smashed the window with his foot, which startled and awoke me. He was badly injured and shaken. As Brother One grew into his 20s, his relationship with my uncle distanced a bit at the choice of the uncle, and I think Brother One felt a sense of abandonment. Brother One then unexpectedly received a letter from my uncle's lawyer that he was threatening to sue him for painting landscapes of a similar nature to his. My uncle was Brother One's teacher and guide, and growing up he influenced the way Brother One painted, so it seemed unbelievably odd to me that my uncle would suddenly turn around and sue him, threatening to take him to court if he continued these pictures of a similar nature, which he himself has taught Brother One to do from an early age. This shocked Brother One and distracted him from his painting as he was trying to write statements defending himself. There was a massive conflict between my mum, dad, uncle and my auntie, who was my dad's younger sister. I believe my auntie saw things from my uncle's perspectives, as she had a naturally closer relationship with my uncle than my father. Also, my uncle has no children, and for what I'm aware, no marriages for familial support, only his mother. The legal threats against Brother One caused arguments between my mum, dad, uncle and auntie, and I would hear some intensely charged phone calls from mum's side. The stress from this event would have likely meant Brother One would have been getting less work done and therefore less income. Brother One spent his 20s engaging in excessive drinking, smoking and partying, as well as being his own income provider as a painter. He would experience depression and emotional difficulty, and I recount several times overhearing difficult discussions between him and Mum of his struggles. He would sleep in late and be pacing well into the night, which was a massive concern for Dad, who would visit in the mornings. This caused Dad to be quite strict and assertive with Brother One because he feared Brother One failing. Brother One took huge annoyance to this, and the added underlying financial conflict between Mum and Dad caused tension. My uncle is a successful, well-known artist worldwide. He holds a lot of power, influence, connections, and wealth. Brother One's visits to my uncle made me feel a bit confused as a child, and I worried for him when he was staying at my uncle's. Me and Brother Two did not share a close relationship to my uncle whatsoever, and I felt a sense of intimidation from my uncle from an early age. When my uncle threatened to sue Brother One later, using a lawyer and falsely threatening him, his self-esteem suffered, and his sense of painting ability was challenged. He would excessively compare his ability to my uncle's. Given my uncle's credibility and status in the industry, he had the potential to negatively tarnish Brother One's image as an artist, and I believe he engaged in such behaviour. I remember recalling an event where a close friend of the family, an art dealer, my uncle's past art dealer and Brother One's current art dealer, where the art dealer called Brother One, and he heard my uncle verbally abusing her and threatening her in the art gallery. Brother One then made a witness statement from these events. My uncle expressed at his and my dad's mother's funeral to my dad that he could not forgive Brother One for making that statement. In a financial context, my uncle's massive accumulation of wealth and assets due to his success and built status in the painting industry would likely make the action of my remaining family of myself, dad and brothers. My mum passed away a few years ago, completely irrational and illogical when it comes to accusing my uncle of this abuse. His status, connections, worldwide fame and wealth would leave us in a much more vulnerable financial position in the context of a legal case. I believe my uncle's family history may have led to his actions, and maybe his own mother or father abused him. I know he had a close relationship to his mother, and her passing was incredibly difficult. I recall my dad speaking of emotional difficulties from the disinterest of his own mother towards him compared to his siblings. His mother, my grandmother, would send us kids birthday cards and Christmas cards, but we did not spend too much time together. However, Brother One expressed to me when she passed that he felt a connection to her and had spent time with her. It is possible the father, our grandfather, was too harsh or punishing on my dad and his siblings, but he passed away before I was born when Dad was in his early 20s, and I've never fully discussed this with Dad. It could be a person of trust or caregiving outside of the family who has affected my uncle. I know my dad is distrusting of certain types of men and has expressed it throughout my life. My dad has tried his absolute hardest to invest his money wisely for the future benefit of us kids, and I believe his lifelong effort in our family finances should not be drained in trying to defend his son against his brother who may have abused Brother One, who is my dad's own son. I share this statement in the trust that whoever reads this or hears this will consider the physical, mental and financial safety of my family before acting on this information. I have made this statement as I believe these events point to a possible case of abuse, grooming and emotional manipulation of a minor by an adult over 50 years of age at the time. And what's triggered me to make this statement is that I was put on fluoxetine and it's triggers severe side effects, and one of them is that I've had a lot of repressed trauma come up, which I have not thought about in years. And one of them was a very explicit sexual trauma that I was involved in at age 5, completely unrelated to my family, and I've reported it to police in explicit detail, and I know the exact location, date, teachers involved, school, everything in the explicit details of the sexual events. And this is just my final statement. Thank you. I have also decided to add information that I have visited Brother One today at his house, and I gave him a printout of this statement, and he looked at me and he said that he's emotionally at peace at what happened with my uncle, but currently my brother's in a situation where he's not making any money compared to what my uncle is making in the painting industry, and I believe my uncle could have made actions that have contributed to this. And I visited my brother today and he did not look well at all, and when I went to the house, I did not say I was going around, but I went to the house and he came home later with a friend, and his girlfriend was not home at the time, and he looked very strange, and he did not look calm, he did not look like my brother, and he did not look like he was well, and I'm worried that he was, like, his friend came in, his friend made zero eye contact with me. I do not know who this friend is. I'm worried that both of them are taking drugs, or that my brother is being supplied drugs and he's abusing drugs. Yeah, he could be taking drugs right now, and I'm worried that if this affects him, he might be led to commit suicide, or my dad might have a heart attack or something like that, and that's just what I need to add right now. Thank you.